Hello, my friends. Good evening. The time right now is 11:27 p.m. This is January the 2nd of 2026. And I'm starting this live stream to talk about the ongoing issues surrounding Venezuela. So are if you are tuning in, thank you so very much. Please stay connected. If this is your first time, make sure you subscribe and hit the like button on this video. I would appreciate that. So let's get started, my friends. It is hard to predict what dictators are thinking at any given point in time. We're talking about dictators. It is hard to predict what dictators are thinking, especially when they are facing a crisis. It is hard to know what is going on in the mind of a dictator when the person knows that the regime may collapse. It is hard to know what dictators who are so intoxicated by power, it is hard to know what these dictators think and how their brains work. My friends, look at Nicolas Maduro. That's who I'm talking about today. Can anyone figure out what Nicolas Maduro is thinking? What he has in mind? It seems to me that Maduro is scared, but we don't know for sure. But I think he's scared. I mean, there's one thing that is very strange about dictators. They take power for granted. That's right. They get used to power. You know, when a dictator makes his way, in this case Maduro, to a powerful position, starts off as not being a dictator and then goes to power, assumes power, becomes a dictator over time. And then they get used to power. And once a person like Maduro is in power, they just think that they are going to be in that position forever. I think that's what they assume. I guess they can never imagine that there may come a time when they will no longer be in power, or that power may be challenged or taken away. The Venezuela issue is a big one, and I have actually spent a lot of time thinking about it, talking about it, writing about it, because it is one of the biggest international issues of the present day. Yes, there's Ukraine, Russia, which I talked about. There are some other issues, obviously. But Venezuela is one of the biggest, okay? Maybe the biggest one is Ukraine, Russia. Who knows? You know, it depends on how different people will rank these issues. But Venezuela, one of the biggest issues right now. And so I've spent a lot of time on this channel talking about it, doing live streams and writing about it. It was just a few days ago when I did a live stream talking about the volatility around Venezuela. And I asked the question, what is going to happen next? Because there's so much of uncertainty. And I hope that a lot of you watched that live stream. Hey, by the way, I have to acknowledge the friends who are here. New friends, old friends. Kay Cooper, good to see you. Frank, thank you always for supporting this channel. We got Salerno. We got Fred, we got Z, and there are others, hopefully, who will be joining soon. By the way, I got a question in the live chat, a poll question, and the question is, should the Trump administration take stronger military action against the Maduro regime? And if you can answer yes or no, that would be great, because I'm trying to Um, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out what people are thinking about this. Um, so, yeah, go ahead, answer the question. Should the Trump administration take stronger military action against the Maduro regime? Okay. So going back to what I was saying, I recently did a live stream talking about the volatility around Venezuela, and I asked the question, what is going to happen next? Obviously, we don't know the answer. Prior to that, I had done other live streams talking about whether or not the United States should take action against Venezuela's dictator Nicolas Maduro. And I asked the question, what will be America's next step in dealing with Venezuela's Maduro regime? And more. And you can go back to August of 2025, all right? When I published a podcast episode with the following title: Is the Maduro regime going to fall? Is the Maduro regime going to fall? And after all these months, it seems to me that the Maduro regime might collapse. And you can let me know if you agree with my assessment, if you agree with my analysis, if you agree with my viewpoints or not. Under President Trump's leadership, my friends, the US military conducted a series of strikes on drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific over the last few months. There are questions about ground operations, whether there will be US military presence on the ground in Venezuela. We don't know the answer to that. Terry is here. Hello, Terry. Good to see you. Thank you for the compliment, as always. And there are others. Is Jackson here? Jackson's here, I guess, if I'm reading it correctly. All right. Share with me your thoughts. What do you think? Will there be U.S. military presence on the ground in Venezuela? Is that a question that Kay Cooper, did you ask also? Did you ask that question, Kay? My friends, I don't want to speculate. I do speculate that the Maduro regime is going to collapse. How that's going to happen, I don't know. Will there be U.S. military presence on the ground in Venezuela? Will there be, what we refer to as boots on the ground? I don't know. But I do know, and we all know this, that the United States has seized 2 ships carrying Venezuelan sanctioned oil. Tommy Brown is here. Hello, Tommy Brown. Good to see you. Kay Cooper is asking, I asked if you think it'll take boots on the ground. I don't know. I think there may be some hesitation regarding that, Kay. Because boots on the ground is a very, very big decision. And it's irreversible in some ways. Because if there are boots on the ground, it means there's a mission that has to be completed. You cannot go halfway and then decide to not go further. So it's very, very complicated, boots on the ground. And even if you think, oh, it's going to be boots on the ground, it's going to be quick in and out, it may not be the case. It may not be the case. Once you put boots on the ground, I mean, these are real human lives, soldiers, right? I mean, in the media, in everyday language, a lot of people say, "Oh, we're going to put boots on the ground." These are human beings. These are U.S. soldiers, and the decision about whether or not to deploy U.S. soldiers on the ground in Venezuela, it's a very, big decision with, you know, it's like we don't know what the consequences of that will be. Will that lead to a massive victory, the collapse of the Maduro regime, and freedom and liberty for the Venezuelan people, and safety in the region, and stability in the region? We don't know. How long is it going to take? Is it going to be, a 1 week thing, 2 weeks, 1 month, 6 months? We don't know. So it's a big decision. These are real human beings. Every time we put boots on the ground, um, we're putting our U.S. military service men and women, you know, um, in a situation where there could be many dangers, and so it's going to be a big decision. I do not know, but I do know that the Trump administration has been um, taking lots of actions to put tremendous pressure on the Maduro regime. There are other ways of putting so much of pressure on a regime that the regime may collapse. And so, like, US has seized 2 ships carrying sanctioned oil, and that is quite detrimental for the Maduro regime when the United States took that action. And also, it was confirmed by President Trump that the US conducted a strike on a Venezuelan port that was used for, trafficking, drug trafficking. So the regime right now in Venezuela can see all of this, what's going on. The region is surrounded by US military assets, military buildup, ships, powerful ships, US military service members. I mean, there are so many US assets in that region, ready to tackle any situation, ready to face any challenges, ready to address any problems. And so that is sending a message to the Maduro regime that they're in a lot of trouble. And then seizing 2 ships carrying sanctioned Venezuelan oil, that puts economic pressure on the Maduro regime, and then the strike on the Venezuelan port. So the pressure is building up on Venezuela. So what options does Maduro have now? That is the question that I'm asking. What is Nicolas Maduro going to do now? I'll get to that in a little bit, but I want to highlight something else. By being tough on Venezuela, the United States is also sending a strong message to Russia. Now, tell me, am I the only one who can understand that connection between the two issues? You got the issue of Russia waging war against Ukraine, Russia being aggressive, Russia provoking the NATO countries by sending jets and drones into the NATO airspace. So Russia is being the aggressor in that region. And then there's Venezuela, with the Maduro regime trying to cause harm to the United States. So you have to understand there's a connection. By being tough on Venezuela, the United States is also sending a strong message to Russia. And I don't think that the timing of all of this is it's not a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence. The Ukraine-Russia war is going on, and President Trump has been trying to stop it. President Trump has been talking to Putin, has been talking to Zelensky, has been talking to the European leaders, and President Trump has a team involved with, Steve Witkoff and Marco Rubio and Jared Kushner and Pete Hegseth and others who are trying to solve that problem, who are trying to find a solution to the Ukraine-Russia war, trying to end that war and save lives. So that's going on. But there is a connection. America, by putting pressure on the Maduro regime, it's not just about Venezuela. It's not just about the Caribbean region. It's also about sending a message to Russia. Do you understand that connection? I don't think it's a coincidence. Because Russia and Venezuela, do you know that they are allies? Did you know that? I've talked about this before. Russia and Venezuela are allies. Maduro and Putin. They're allies, they're buddies, they're friends. Okay? Russia and Venezuela, they're not friends of the US, but Russia and Venezuela are friends of each other. Russia supports Venezuela. Even as Venezuela's Maduro regime is engaging in drug trafficking, the Maduro regime is engaging in violating human rights, the Maduro regime has carried out extrajudicial killings, the Maduro regime has done so many bad things. And in spite of all that, Russia supports Venezuela. No matter how notorious Nicolas Maduro is, this dictator Maduro is getting support from Russia, is getting support from Vladimir Putin. Russia has reaffirmed its full support for Venezuela's current leadership, meaning the Maduro regime. Russia has expressed solidarity, and Russia is supporting fully the Maduro regime. Can you believe that? Yeah, it's believable. Authoritarian regimes in both countries, Venezuela and Russia. Authoritarian regime, and they support each other. I think President Trump presents himself, obviously he presents himself as a peacemaker. He is a peacemaker, President Trump. He has done a lot. I've talked about it in my previous live stream. You can go listen to that. By the way, I've been doing live streams since January of 2024, and now here we are, January of 2026. It's been 2 years I've been doing live streams on this channel. And I thank you all for the tremendous support that I've received from all of you. You are such amazing people. Thank you all for supporting this channel, for continuing to tune in for these live streams and watching my videos and sharing your thoughts, engaging in the live chat. I appreciate you all. So in my previous live stream, I've talked about President Trump. I've talked about why so many people call him the peacemaker. He presents himself as the peacemaker, and he does a lot to bring about peace, and he has achieved a lot. There's greater peace on earth because of President Trump. There's still a lot to do, but he has already done tremendous work. So I think because President Trump presents himself as a peacemaker, so some of the countries out there are probably thinking that the president, because he's a peacemaker, he's not going to mobilize the military in international affairs. Maybe Russia and Venezuela thought that the US military will not take any aggressive action. But President Trump has shown that the United States will take action if needed, whatever action is necessary. And our military is very much capable of taking necessary action to address international issues. So Maduro complains that the United States wants a regime change in Venezuela. All right. Shall we talk about it? Shall we talk about it? Regime change in Venezuela. Do you think that's what President Trump is trying to do? Regime change in Venezuela? I mean, let me ask you, if that's the case, what's the problem? What is the problem? Okay, let's assume for a second that, yeah, maybe President Trump wants a regime change in Venezuela. Is there anything wrong with that? If regime change is really needed, then regime change is really needed. And I think any human being who understands morality, who understands human rights, any human being out there who understands the concept of freedom, who understands the importance of democracy, who understands the difference between right and wrong, the difference between good and bad, any human being with a conscience, any human being with a kind heart would say that, yeah, perhaps regime change in Venezuela is needed. Because, in fact, the people of Venezuela, they would like a regime change. I'm pretty sure about that. The people of Venezuela, the innocent people of Venezuela, who's suffering, who have been oppressed by the Maduro regime, they would like to see regime change. Now, I don't know what President Trump is planning to do. But there are people on the ground in Venezuela who are sick and tired of this regime. They cannot live like this under such a brutal regime, Maduro regime, and they would like to see this regime go away. So it's more about what the people of Venezuela want. It's about what the people of Venezuela want. Those who have been victims of oppression, whose freedom of speech, people who lost their freedom of speech, people who lost their ability to criticize their own government, people who saw their human rights being violated. What do those people want? Do they want regime change in Venezuela? What do you think? My friends, this is far from over. In the days ahead, in the weeks ahead, I don't know how long this is going to take. Days or weeks or months, I don't know, but let's just say in the days ahead, I believe there's going to be a lot more action around Venezuela. That's my assumption. Let's review some facts and figures about Venezuela, all right? Just some basic information. But before that, before we go into that, my friends, 23 minutes into the live stream, I would appreciate if you subscribe, hit the subscribe button. Be a part of this growing community of freedom-loving people. Okay? Subscribe, like this video, share this video. You all are so wonderful. Kay Cooper is saying, I think you are right, Tosif. Thank you, Kay. I appreciate that. I am always interested to hear what your viewpoints are. Kay agrees with me. Kay thinks I'm right. Thank you, Kay. There are others who probably don't agree with me. That's all right. If you have a different viewpoint, believe me, the live chat is open. You're free to share your thoughts because I believe in freedom of speech. Absolutely. Tommy Brown agrees with me. He says, so do I. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you so very much. This is Tommy Brown from Colorado. And there are others. Well, I see some new names. Great. It's wonderful. Salerno agrees with me 100%. Thank you so very much, Salerno. Thank you, Salerno. So let's review some basic information about Venezuela. Venezuela is a country in South America. The size of the country is almost 6 times the size of Georgia. A journey is here. That's our friend Rachel from Waukesha. Rachel, so good to see you. Rachel from Waukesha. Good to see you, Rachel. Thanks for being here. Venezuela is almost 6 times the size of Georgia. It's more than twice the size of California. Tropical climate, humid area. The population is estimated, let me just double check this, 31 million, I think, approximately. Let me just double check population of Venezuela. I think it's 31 million. Um, yeah, right around 30, 31. I don't think we have a good estimate because the institutions in Venezuela are so what's the right word? The institutions in Venezuela don't function the way that a country's institutions should. So I think there's no real estimate about what the true population of Venezuela is. Some would say 28 million, some would say 34 million. It's somewhere in there, I think. But anyway, let's just say 30, 31 million. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. The capital of Venezuela has something like 3 million people, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody, if I'm wrong, correct me, all right? Go ahead. Maduro, Nicolas Maduro, is both the chief of state and the head of the government because he's the president. So the president is both the chief of state and the head of government. So in 2024, Maduro claimed that he's been reelected. Okay. We all know that, right? Maduro claimed in 2024 that he won re-election, although the election results are disputed. Okay. You're probably thinking, Tassif, why are you wasting time talking about Venezuela's 2024 election? We all know it was a rigged election. We all know that the results are not accurate, far from accurate. Rigged election, rigged results. Maduro re-elected. There's no way that this guy got re-elected, but yet he's in power because, the system's rigged, the institutions are corrupt. So we know all about it, Tassif. Why don't you tell us something else? All right, my friends, I understand. Don't get exhausted. We have a lot to talk about. I hope you stay here, but some information has to be repeated, even if you know it. Why? Because there are others here who may not be aware of the information that I'm presenting. So I have to be, very thorough for them. So 2024, election in Venezuela, not free, not fair. All right. If you're expecting like democracy, a democratic process, free and fair election, people going to the polls and voting for their preferred candidate, and the votes are being, counted properly and reported accurately and promptly and fairly. No, none of that. None of that. You cannot expect that in Venezuela, given the current circumstances. In 2024, we can no longer say, oh, it was last year. No, it was not. It was the year before, because we're officially into 2026. So Maduro in 2024 claimed that, oh, he has won re-election. But we all know that the election results do not represent the will of the people of Venezuela. And this is very typical. When you look at dictators, this is what they do. And that's why I'm using that term dictator. I'm not saying, oh, President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela. No, because he has not earned the title of president. He has not. He's in power. It's illegitimate. He's not in power lawfully. He did not get re-elected fairly. Disputed election results. Nicolas Maduro in power, through force, through coercion. You know, you want to talk about voter suppression? That's voter suppression in Venezuela right there. People don't have the freedom to vote for the candidate they want. There's voter suppression. There's all, I mean, this is the 2024 election in Venezuela, rigged election. Biggest example of a rigged election. Some might say, oh, Nicolas Maduro, he's the president. No, he's a dictator. He's a dictator who is hiding behind the title of a president. And I've seen similar cases. I've talked about, on this channel, I've talked about Bangladesh, where I'm from, the country where I'm from, Bangladesh, where I was born and raised. Beautiful country. But for a decade and a half, more than a decade and a half, Sheikh Hasina had the title of Prime Minister of Bangladesh. But she was a dictator. Now she is hiding in India. But she was a dictator. If somebody told you, oh, Sheikh Hasina won re-election. No, she did not. Because she corrupted the institutions in Bangladesh. She rigged the election. She used force and coercion to remain in power. That's another example of a brutal dictator who committed many, many crimes. The list is so long. Her regime killed people. Her regime, Sheikh Hasina's regime in Bangladesh, carried out extrajudicial killing, enforced disappearances, and more. So I see her record, and I see she's a brutal dictator who's now hiding in India. So when you look at Nicolas Maduro, you see a dictator who committed many, many crimes, not just him, but his allies. In fact, last month, there was actually a news published by the United Nations. Yeah. The United Nations published news, a report that talked about how Venezuela's National Guard has been linked to killings and torture and repression. And this is according to a United Nations probe. Okay? This is the United Nations fact-finding mission that found that Venezuela's Bolivarian, I think that's how it's pronounced. If I'm mispronouncing, I apologize. Bolivarian National Guard, let's just call it the Venezuelan National Guard, is responsible for systematic violations and crimes against humanity. Crimes against humanity. That's what the Venezuela's National Guard did. These crimes and violations have been going on for more than a decade. More than a decade. Since 2014, actually. This is a brutal regime in Venezuela. And I know there are people here who watch my live streams. And they oppose pretty much anything that I say. And a lot of, folks here who oppose my viewpoints, they're not even from the United States. They're from, other parts of the world. I don't know where. They watch my live streams and they oppose my viewpoints. Let me remind you. We got friends here from different parts of the world. We got friends from Canada, friends from Australia. We got friends from, Europe. We got friends from Africa over here who tune in for live streams. And we appreciate that, because the idea of freedom, it's, It's universal. People are fighting for freedom in different parts of the world, in different territories. Because freedom is, it's God-given. Freedom is God-given. And when freedom is restricted, people have to fight to restore freedom and to protect freedom. And so, there are so many people from across the world who watch these live streams, but then there are those who tune in and they oppose anything that I say. And when I'm talking about MAGA, they oppose MAGA. But you know what? If you oppose MAGA and you're not from the US, well, yeah, you're opposing MAGA because you don't want the US to be at the top. That's right. If you're saying, oh, no MAGA, but then, I look and see, okay, where you from? Oh, you're not from the US. You're from some, I don't know, some other place. Well, the idea of MAGA is American. Make America great again. So if you're not from the US and you don't want US to be great, I mean, that's not relevant to the discussion, right? Because MAGA means make America great again. It's very, very American. It's an American idea. It's specific to the United States. If you are from some other country and you're saying, oh, I don't believe in MAGA, all right, well, that's because you're not American. You probably want to make your country great. Okay, go ahead, do it, no problem. So there are folks who oppose my viewpoints, they oppose my comments. But let me ask you this. What do you have to say now, wherever you're from? If you are defending Nicolas Maduro, if you're defending Nicolas Maduro, and I tell you about the United Nations fact-finding mission that found that Venezuela's National Guard is responsible for systematic violations and crimes against humanity, and these crimes and violations have been going on for more than a decade, what are you going to say now? You're going to say, oh, Tosif, I don't trust you. Well, don't trust me. You're going to say, oh, I don't trust your President Trump. Don't trust President Trump. Are you going to trust the UN? I mean, this is a UN report. United Nations. I mean, I can spell that out for you if you're confused, if you don't know what UN is or how United Nations is spelled. I can write that. I can write that. Hold on a second. United Nations. I'm going to spell that out. United Nations. You can see it in the live chat. That's what I'm talking about. United Nations. Are you going to not believe a UN report? I mean, I know I can criticize the UN a lot for other things, but I happen to see a bit of a correlation where people who oppose Trump, they tend to really favor the UN because they usually like these big global bodies. They want global entities controlling things. There's a pattern. A lot of folks, they don't like Trump. They don't like MAGA. They don't like the Trump administration. They don't like the idea of America first, but they love UN. So to those people, I'm going to say now, you don't have to like Trump. You don't have to like me. But you got to believe this UN report. This UN report that is claiming that the Maduro regime committed many crimes against humanity, right? You can trust the United Nations at least. Why don't you go and read this report? And you're going to read about the pattern of abuse by Venezuela's National Guard. You can read about the excessive use of excessive force. Use of excessive force. You can read about the systemic failures in Venezuela. You can read about this fact-finding mission. And after you read about the human rights violations, and after you read about the absence of justice in Venezuela, just ask yourself the question, isn't regime change necessary? Isn't regime change necessary? If regime change can save human lives, what would you say to the idea of regime change? If regime change can save human lives. Share with me your thoughts. Share with me your thoughts. Share with me your thoughts. Go ahead. Thank you all for being here. 41 minutes into the live stream. Salerno agrees with me 100%. Thank you, Salerno. Tommy, thanks so much. I mean, this is all a no-brainer, I would say. This is common sense. If you see a regime that's hurting people, if you see that this Maduro regime is suppressing the rights of the people of Venezuela, this Maduro regime is not allowing free and fair elections to take place, if you see this Maduro regime is busy trafficking drugs, if you see this Maduro regime committing all kinds of, human rights violations and just taking away people's freedom, and people are living in fear because of the Maduro regime, then what would you say to the idea of regime change? Open question for you to answer. Go ahead. Go ahead. Maduro, Nicolas Maduro is a dictator who's supported by Russia. Let me tell you one thing. The more pressure is applied on Maduro, the easier it'll be to deal with Russia. Because Russia and Venezuela are buddies. Russia is going to feel the heat if Venezuela feels the heat. If Venezuela is under tremendous pressure, if the Maduro regime faces sanctions and other strong actions, then Russia is going to feel the heat. And that's why the Trump administration has to apply more pressure on the Maduro regime. Stronger military action against the Maduro regime at this point, it's necessary. Tommy Brown is saying Trump was right the whole time. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you. So, time for questions. A viewer here named Waldo is asking, are you even a citizen? Yes, I'm a U.S. citizen. Are you a citizen of some other country, Waldo? Waldo, where are you a citizen of? I'm a citizen of the U.S. Salerno is saying, thank God we have a strong leader. Thank you, Salerno. And we should pray for our strong leader, Donald Trump. Tommy Brown's asking, how was your holidays? It was okay, Tommy. Spent time mostly at home. Um, so this guy or gal, I don't know, named Jay is saying, you from Dhaka. Is that a question or is that a statement? Is that a question or a statement? Because I don't see a question mark. I don't see. Am I originally from Dhaka? Yeah, that's where I'm from originally. Yeah. Good guess. All right. Yeah, absolutely. That's where I was born and raised in Dhaka. You are correct. Someone saying go back to India. Well, why? That's not my country. Go back to India. I'm not Indian. Z is from Chicago. Z says Happy New Year, Tausif. Happy New Year, Z. Happy New Year to everyone. All right. Z says I'm back in La Crosse. La Crosse, beautiful city, always. All right. I know that um, some of you have asked me for my email address. I'm going to provide that to you. Okay. Hold on a second. Some of you have asked me for my website and my email address. I'm going to provide that in just a second. Stay here. Yeah, so my website is tausifanam.net. My email address is tausif@tausifanam.net. Someone's asking me my address. My address is in Madison. I live in Madison, Wisconsin, okay? That's all you need to know. I see a question here. How are you? Well, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. Someone's asking, are you Indian? No, I am not Indian. Salerno says, love your cooking videos. Thank you, Salerno. All right. You know, I always feel like I have to say a word of appreciation for all those who come here and they spend a lot of time and energy opposing my viewpoints. Thanks for supporting my channel. You are doing that probably without realizing. Uh, you come here and you keep the live chat so busy, so busy. I appreciate all that. Yeah, please continue to do that. Any more questions for me? All right. Zach says, I agree with your hat. Thank you, Zach. It's a message that I think all Americans should agree with. It's about making America great again. Z is asking about Venezuela. Z, I don't know what kind of military action the Trump administration may or may not take. It's such an issue. I'm not going to make any prediction. But let's see. I think Maduro understands that Trump can take military action at any moment because of all the military buildup, all the resources that we have deployed in that region. So now it's up to Maduro to make a decision how he wants things to proceed. I mean, it's very easy. He can just step down from power. He can just step down, surrender. He can just dissolve his regime. That's up to Maduro to decide now. The US is going to react, okay? And react to any action by Maduro. If he steps down from power, if he dissolves his regime, it'll be a wise decision for him. Yeah. Jeremy says, you're a real American. Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Thank you. Tommy says, check your email. Tommy, I've got my email inbox open. I didn't see any email coming in the last few hours. So, yeah, if anyone sent me an email, I didn't get it in the last few hours. So for anyone who's here for the first time and you are new to this channel, you're trying to figure out what channel this is, what this is about, let me give you a quick overview. This is a channel about social and political issues, both domestic and international. So on any given day, we could be talking about US healthcare policy, US energy policy. We could be talking about Senate races, gubernatorial races. We could be talking about, Supreme Court decision, any executive order by the president. We could be talking about maybe an ongoing policy issue, debate in any state, any territory. We could be talking about battleground states and elections. We could be talking about candidates and their policy positions, local, state, federal. We could be, discussing the Ukraine-Russia situation. We could be talking about NATO. We could be talking about South Asia. We could be talking about trade disputes with Canada. Also, we have discussed visits by foreign leaders. when leaders from other countries visited the White House and met with President Trump. We've discussed that. We could be talking about ongoing international conflicts, social issues. You know, really, it's broad, and so yeah, that's what this channel is about. And obviously, I'm somebody who strongly believes in freedom. I believe in freedom of speech. And so I encourage people to share their thoughts and opinions with me on this channel. And I'm pretty encouraged over the years to see how people have responded to my call, and they have actively participated in being a part of the discussion, in letting us know their opinions on issues. I don't expect anyone to agree with me 100% of the time on all issues. Um, there are those who agree with me close to 100% of the time. There are those who agree with me, at times or maybe most of the time. And there are those who oppose my viewpoints no matter what I say. That's fine. It's an open forum. People can share their thoughts. All I ask for is that you should, when you're debating, you should respect the person you're addressing or talking to. I think we as human beings, no matter which part of the world you live in, I think that's very important for all of us to follow. Treat others with respect, right? That's what I expect. Not everyone listens to my advice. I get it. If things get out of control, if somebody is being very disruptive or using tremendously harsh language, I have to, I feel compelled to take action and maybe put that person in timeout or something like that in the live chat. But other than that, I welcome people to participate, and thank you for doing that. Thank you so very much. All right. Okay, my friends, 58 minutes into the live stream. Ask me questions, please. It's no longer Friday night. It's officially Saturday morning now. We're past midnight, except if you are in the if you're in the mountain time zone, if you're in the Pacific time zone, you're still enjoying Friday, I guess. But yeah. Zero is asking me about inflation. What a name, Zero, huh? Yeah, pretty cool name, Zero. Zero is asking me about inflation. Zero, do you live in the United States? Because if you live in the United States of America, which, I don't have to tell you, but I will, is the greatest country in the world. If you live in the United States, you are probably very happy right now because prices have come down. Prices of groceries, price of gas, prices have come down. And so President Trump has done a great job. His administration has done a great job to address the Biden inflation, Joe Biden's inflation. And so, Zero, you're asking me about inflation. You got to be really happy if you're in the US. Now, if you are in some other country, well, I don't know what's going on in your country. If you are from, I don't know, some other part of the world. So you got to let me know where you're from. But if you're talking about the US, then the inflation situation has improved significantly. Gas is now affordable again. Trump is making groceries affordable again, gas affordable again. Yeah, thank you all. All right. Any more questions for me? Go ahead. Thanks, Kay, for your support. Appreciate it very much. Oh, Terry is back. Terry, good to see you. Good to see you, Terry. Okay, any more questions for me? Go ahead. Go ahead, ask questions. The live chat is open. You can ask me questions that you want to. I'll be here answering your questions. Go ahead. Tommy says, check your email. Tommy, I've got my inbox open. I don't see any email in the last few hours. Brad is here. Hello, Brad. Good to see you. So if anyone sent me anything, any email with any question or anything, I didn't get it. So yeah, because my laptop is right here. That's what I'm looking at. Whenever I'm not looking at this screen, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at my laptop screen right now. Paul is here. Hello, Paul. Brad, good to see you. Paul, good to see you. Others, all of a sudden I see all of a sudden I feel like the live chat kind of became a little slow. I don't know what happened. There was so much of conversation going on, and now things kind of slowed down. I wonder what happened, huh? Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Yes, I did. Uh, yeah, the subscriber only mode. It's such a great tool, you know. The subscriber only mode. It's pretty awesome. I mean, hey, listen, if you want to be a part of the conversation, you can just subscribe, and that way you're not going to only participate in the conversation today, but also in the future. Whenever I'm doing videos, you can get notifications and tune in. So yeah, the subscriber only mode. Isn't that an awesome feature? I think it is. I think it is. It doesn't cost you anything. Just hit the subscribe button. That's it. It doesn't cost you a dime. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't cost you a dime. You can just subscribe. Decent is saying you're scared of disagreement. Who's scared of disagreement? No, disagreement is a part of everyday conversation. Disagreement is a part of everyday conversation. You know, you can disagree with your family members, your friends, your siblings. You can disagree with your best buddy. There's nothing to be afraid of. Yeah. Terry's asking, oh no, am I married? I am not married. No. Thanks for the question. Decent is saying you ignore every well-reasoned criticism. Do I? No, I don't. I don't. No. That's why the live chat is open for people to disagree with me. Absolutely. You can go ahead. Yeah, tell me, what is it that you disagree with? Anything that I said? Okay, let's see. I'm going to answer your questions here. So, Decent is asking, name a single policy Trump implemented to slow inflation. Very easy. Very easy. Energy production expansion. You asked for one, I gave you one. Energy production expansion. See, energy price will affect everything in the economy. Whatever you're producing. If you are producing something that needs to be transported to a store shelf or to a point, from where you're going to be selling it to the general public, like from the factory to the retail space, from the factory to the shop, from the factory to the market. Transportation. The cost of transportation depends on cost of energy. The cost of production depends on cost of energy. If you're providing a service, okay, you have to keep your lights on. Let's say you run a salon, okay, a salon, a barber shop, and you got clients coming in and getting haircuts, okay? You have to keep your lights on. You have to keep the air conditioning on or the heat on. Everything requires energy. I mean, think about it in simple terms. So if your energy cost goes down, the cost of doing business is going to go down, which means, what does that mean? It benefits you as a business owner, right? If your cost of doing business is going down, then you can charge less and compete with the other businesses providing the same services. You can be more competitive if you are able to save money in energy costs. If you're producing a physical product and that has to be transported, if transportation cost goes down, if the cost of running your machines on your factory floor, inside your manufacturing facility, if the cost of running those machines goes down because energy cost has gone down, then you can offer that product at a lower cost. You're producing at a lower cost, you're offering that at a lower price to the buyer. So I mean, in very simple terms, you got to understand that when you expand energy production, when you are focusing on just making sure that we take full advantage of our coal, oil, and gas resources, that will help fight inflation and lower prices. Very simple. Okay, so ask me a question, I gave you an answer. Any other questions for me, my friends? Go ahead. Yeah, I heard about the drill baby drill, keeping it real simple. Drill baby drill. Okay, that pretty much sums up the energy policy. Yes, there are lots of details when you look at, specifically at coal, when you look at oil, when you look at gas, when you look at the industries, where we have the coal reserves and the gas reserves, the oil reserves. We can just go into a lot of details, offshore drilling, so on and so forth. But keeping it very simple, drill, baby, drill. If we have the resources, God-given resources, if we can use the resources to make lives better for the American people, we're going to do it. Okay, that's Trump's policy. Gray is here. Hello, Gray. Thanks for being here. Any more questions for me? Any more questions for me? Kay Cooper says wind turbines are a joke. Absolutely, Kay. I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah. Wind turbines are a complete joke because we have wind turbines in Wisconsin. And, you go to southwest Wisconsin, you're driving by beautiful countryside. And I've said this before. You may have heard me talk about this before. You see those wind turbines on beautiful American farmlands. I mean, those turbines are just ugly. Okay? Ugly. All right. Okay, my friends, 1 hour and 14 minutes in. I'm going to wrap up this live stream. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. You are all wonderful people. Yes, Soleno says they're eyesores. Yeah, the wind turbines are eyesores. Absolutely. All right. My friends, thank you all for being here, for joining this live stream. Let's see what happens with the Maduro regime, the brutal Maduro regime. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of action President Trump takes regarding Venezuela, regarding the Maduro regime. But, I'll tell you one thing. The people of Venezuela, they are desperately seeking freedom. The people of Venezuela. And as long as the Maduro regime is in power, the people of Venezuela are not going to be able to enjoy freedom. So keep that in mind. Terry, thanks for being here, and others. Thank you, my friends. May God bless you all. May God bless President Donald J. Trump. May God bless the Trump administration. May God bless the Republicans in Washington. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless our U.S. allies. And may God bless freedom-loving people all over the world. Thank you so very much. Have a good night, and I'll be back again very soon with more videos and more live stream. Thank you.